In the councils of government, we must guard against the acquisition of unwarranted influence, whether sought or unsought, by the military-industrial complex. The potential for the disastrous rise of misplaced power exists and will persist. We must never let the weight of this combination endanger our liberties or democratic processes. We should take nothing for granted. Only an alert and knowledgeable citizenry can compel the proper meshing of the huge industrial and military machinery of defense with our peaceful methods and goals, so that security and liberty may prosper together.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
K-Talks.
I'm freaking out, man. You can't handle the truth. You can't handle the truth.
What do all men in power want? More power. More power.
And now, broadcasting live from deep within the borders of occupied liberal territory known as California, Luca Zanna with Love, Guns, and Freedom.
All systems go.
Don't tread on us, we're not afraid. You work for us, we're not your slaves. Don't tread on us, you cross the line.
Hello everybody, this is Luca Zanna and you're listening to Love, Guns, and Freedom, live on K-Talks 1340 AM. Today's broadcasting is going to be a very interesting show, and as you know, we don't do show for entertaining here. Our mission is to educate each other. At least my mission is trying to learn. That's the first thing, because I always believe there is always room to learn. And why? I mean, learning for what? The goal of this show is to regain our God-given rights, and most importantly, of course, at the same time, to take our republic back. Because this is a republic, it is not a democracy, and unfortunately they are destroying it from within, and we know that we are really the last few minutes before midnight. So this is my form of love. That's why the show is called Love, Guns, and Freedom. Without love, of course, there's not going to be motivation to do anything, and I believe this is our engine, it's going to be our fuel to try to regain back and get active, and get involved. Today, after all, is Sunday. I have here guests that for love of the country, and for the next generation, they're doing their part, like I'm trying to do my little part with this broadcasting. So before we go ahead, and I'll tell you right now who are going to be my two guests, I would like to first of all introduce the show, and I also would like to remind our sponsors. But more important, I need to finish up the last show with, I know he's probably listening, Mr. Michael Weiser, running for Congress for the Democratic ticket. I have an offer that you cannot refuse for you. And last time we were so excited talking about Second Amendment and all the ideas that you were talking about, the bazooka, and the 4-year-old kid cannot have a bazooka. We all agree with that. This is the offer you cannot refuse, Michael Weiser. I will leave today the 99 ship to get the lost one. That means, Mike, I will register Democrat at the primary only, and probably get drunk and try to vote for you, but, just the primary of course, in exchange, you must do something for me. Join me for the 4 days handgun class that I'm offering and sponsoring at Front Sight, free. It's a value of $2,000, I'm paying for it, okay? And I'm offering this to 40 students, and I will also loan you one of my guns, since I know you have no guns, and I may also find you some ammunition. I think you got a very good deal, Michael. If you join me at the class, get the gun. 4 days, you must not give up all the way till the end. You go through the training, all the things, and then I don't tell you even that you must keep bearing the gun. That's your decision. But you do with me the 4-day handgun class, and you will see that after all, law-abiding citizens with guns, they are not as bad as some people may think. I'm not saying you're thinking. And as a gift, as an offer, in exchange, I will join for the first time in my life. I register as a Democrat, and for the primary, under the influence of a lot of alcohol, I will go and probably may vote for you. If you like the offer, I hope I'm not going to regret it. Okay, but anyway, this is the offer you cannot refuse, and I'm trying to be funny, but not really, because my idea of this show, as I said, is not just to preach to the choirs, it's try to get involved and trying to show the other side that we're all in danger, no matter which parties, our rights, they're all under attack. So now, let's talk about the guest. First of all, we have incredible two guests. As a man, there are two men, but originally they started with Professor Koch, and this guy, Professor Paul Koch, was an opportunity given from me from another guest that I had here, Kristen Harper. I wanted to thank her because I really enjoy, first of all, learning about anything, but especially when it comes down to the Constitution. So I heard that I would like to call him Paul, okay? He is very involved with another friend of him. His name is Bill. And 1 second, Bill, I'm not going to destroy your last name. Bill, please say your last name.
McMahon.
McMahon, okay, I'm sorry. And Paul, say hi, please. You're there too.
Okay, and it's Koch.
Okay, sorry. I'm sorry. This is, as I said, normally I say at the beginning of the show, I'm an Italian by birth, as you can hear it, and an American by choice. So I have still some limitations when it comes down to accents and grammar, but I'm trying to improve as much as I can. So anyway, that's the point. Today we're going to talk about knowing our rights better, because if we know that we have rights, we may fight for them. Otherwise, we just lost, okay? And how to take them back in a peaceful way. So we will talk with our two guests, and also second hour, I will start to talk about, first of all, reminding the great offer that I'm offering to the listeners to have the opportunity to spend 4 days at Frontside, Nevada in Parham for a 4 days handgun class that normally costs $2,000 for student. I give it to you for free. All you have to bring your own food and your own ammunition. That's it. So it's a great opportunity. We're talking about $80,000 in value for 40 lucky bastards. Okay? Anyway, and the beautiful thing, you don't even need to win anything. All you have to do is send me an email, zanna@zanna.us, with your photo showing that you have a gun, hold in a safe way, and a little message about freedom and the Second Amendment. And that's it. I don't care which party affiliation you are, or if you're ugly, or if you're cute, you're going to have a chance. Simple as that. Okay, today we're going to start now with the show, and we will talk with our guest about everything. We will touch base about Constitution, also about our rights, about a little bit about what's going on in this country. Before I go ahead, I need to thank my sponsors, because without them, we won't be here. And this is not NPR. That's still your money through taxation and, without even you have nothing to say. We are here because people paying for us. And it's called free market. So we appreciate it. First sponsor I would like to thank is, Colorado River Vapor, that is located exactly in Fort Mojave, 4400 South Highway 95, Suite C. And he's a great guy, Tom Sanford. His phone, 928-763-3536. They also have a website. And guess what? You can find the website if you go to my website, because I linked them back. LoveGunsFreedom.com. On the homepage, you will find the link and go straight to them. And by the way, I started now to smoke in sign of protest. Myself e-cigarettes, because no, I'm not really a smoker. I don't even smoke e-cigarettes. But since I know that the city of Los Angeles and other states, they're trying to ban, and some they already banned, the e-cigarettes, it's time to break the laws. Okay, here we go. Second sponsor, we have MP Gun Sales. It's a great shop, gun shop. It's also a gunsmith. They're located just very close to Colorado River Vapor. Exactly, if you want to go visit them, they're exactly on 4470 Highway 95, across from Maverick. The website is mpguns.com. Their phone number is 928-444-5905. Ask for Neil. He's a great guy. If you don't need to buy a gun, that's fine. You can go there, ask even advices. They have a lot of expertise, and they can give you good advices about guns. All right, now let's start with the show. Guys, good morning. How are you?
Good
Morning.
Okay, we have Paul and we have Bill. And I will stop giving you the last names because I know that I probably destroy them a couple times. And I don't want to start to sound like I'm saying bad words, okay? I already think that I did a couple times now that I'm thinking. So, Paul, good morning. Please, Paul, I knew about you because, as I said, I have a friend that she's been talking very nicely about you and very highly about you. And I would like to start to think about, it's so good to have you here because the purpose of the show, I try to bring people here that they can share their experience as a human beings and also as a professional experience, And I know that you've been teaching, and you are teaching, you're doing classes. Bill, are you part of the classes too, right?
I'm Paul's teaching assistant at the adult class.
Perfect. So you do in Lake Havasu, right? You're from Havasu.
Yes, we do.
And what do you teach exactly?
Well, the name of the course is the Constitution, the 5,000-Year Leap. Essentially, it is a lecture course on the Constitution of the United States.
Very good. And for example, if people want to join, what is the day? And do you have like an application?
Oh, yes, of course. Thursday evening, 6 o'clock. And I believe $40 fee, isn't it, Bill?
Actually, 25.
25. And how many weeks this class?
12 weeks.
12 weeks. Okay. So now, right now, how many weeks already did you, how many classes did you do already?
7 or 8, isn't it?
Yes, it's about 7 weeks in.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very good, very good. So we will talk a little bit about the details about that. Now, I would like to first off introduce you, both of you guys, to have a little bit better idea exactly who you are, your background and everything else. For example, let's start with Paul. Paul, I know that you've been a U.S. Marine since 1969 to 1971, right?
Yes.
You were in Vietnam there?
Yes.
Okay, so you spent time there. You did your tour?
Actually, I did half a tour.
After tour.
I then got picked up by one of our intelligence agencies. Dragooned is the way I always put it.
Okay.
And I'm afraid I'd like to tell you about the things I did then, but I'm bound by oath not to.
Okay, and I'm not going to ask you, of course, things you cannot say, but I can ask you this. Since I read in your bio, one of the of the many intelligence agencies, can we just at least mention the name? Which one?
No.
No. Okay, that must be really.
I'm sorry.
It's okay. I understand. Good, but I like the mystery.
It is well known.
It is well known. Okay, I'm sure it's 3 letters, right?
Yes.
Good. Okay, that's enough to say then. But there are many now. Intelligence letter with 3 letters. Unfortunately, we have a book. We need to go through the 3 letters. Good. And also, you've been then in the civilian world. You've been also teaching at the Mojave Community College for about 25 years. What you've been teaching?
Well, same old pop stand, history and political science.
Okay.
Before that, I taught at Columbia Union College. I taught at Clemson. A quaint little college called Norford College in California.
Okay. And question, I know that you have an incredible background also as education. At least compared to me that I'm a dropout from law school, you are kind of an impressive background. I see here that you have a PhD from Georgetown, right?
That's correct.
Which type of faculty there?
Well, I have it from the government department. Georgetown is surprising. It is not surprising when you take a look at the undergraduates.
Okay.
Trotsky would be pleased with them.
Okay.
But amazingly enough, the government faculty, while there are liberals and socialists in it, also there are libertarians and social conservatives.
Okay.
For example, she's passed on now, unfortunately, but one of my favorite teachers was Dr. Valerie Earle, who was Ronald Reagan's original choice to fill the vacancy on the United States Supreme Court.
Okay.
And she is what she calls a Texas Democrat.
Okay, interesting. And Bill, let's talk a little bit about you. Where are you from? Lake Havasu too, right?
Well, I live in Lake Havasu, but I grew up on the East Coast, born and raised in New Jersey, right across, overlooking the Hudson River, Manhattan skyline.
Okay.
And that. I've went to Rutgers. I majored history and accounting, and I went to work for MetLife in the IT department, computers. So I spent about 35 years in the computer business, and I moved around to Clark Summit, Pennsylvania, Greenville, South Carolina, when we built computer centers there to get our major computers out of New York City under the threat of nuclear war with the Soviet Union at the time.
Okay, so you were under during the Cold War, right?
During the Cold War.
Okay.
And I packed it in actually 2 days before 9/11.
Okay.
So from the deck of my house, I could watch the Twin Towers burning.
Okay, let's talk about a little bit. Let's start with the show, because I like to at least give you the background for the listeners, because I like to hear, we have, of course, everybody's opinion is important, but when we also have somebody that, first of all, I believe the ears, every one of us has different ears on this dimension, in this planet, and give us always extra knowledge. So we have two veterans here that, I'm not just talking about military veterans, but also as a background with their life experience. Also, we have some education, some solid education, of also life education. So let's talk first of all, and this is for now for Paul. Briefly, we're going to go through many questions. I'm going to just try to throw questions at you, and we'll go through as much as we can. Number one, what is the function of the government, Paul?
Well, we know. That's a very simple question. All you have to do is read the preamble to the Constitution of the United States.
Okay.
What is government? Well, what are we to do? We are to form a more perfect union. We are to establish justice. We are to provide for the common defense, promote domestic tranquility, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty on ourselves and our posterity. That is what government should do.
Okay.
And no more.
What's about free condoms? Doesn't come with that too? I mean, I hear now that they...
First of all, nothing is free.
I understand. And I'm being sarcastic with that. You know that.
Yes.
Because right now I see that what you say, I completely believe with that. It's nothing about to believe. It's a fact. We can read it. But unfortunately, the last two generations, I agree. And Bill, you tell me if I'm wrong, because I wasn't here the last two generations, but I saw it now. We completely lost perspective of what this country, the principle, and wasn't exactly like some sort of a free that doesn't exist free, of course. Now we are thinking the government, the function of government, at least most of the people out there, they're thinking that it's something that is like an ATM machine. Give me something.
Right.
Right? It's no more defending the rights, the basic rights, It's now about give me something. And it's kind of very disturbing, because it all starts with good ideas at the beginning, even, of course, it's wrong. But then they realize that it's like a Pandora's vase, and you open that vase, and everything is going to come out.
Right.
When you think we lost this concept, Bill, because the idea was great, and I see that slowly, started with David Crockett. It was an interesting letter that probably you know
Yes.
about. We started to lose the type of foundation that this Constitution is supposed to give.
Well, as you mentioned with Davy Crockett, it's very easy to give away other people's money. And basically that is what has happened over the past 40 years or more, when the whole social welfare system came into play. And now many people say, hey, why should I work when I can get the first of every month, the government sends me a check for my rent, for my food, for my transportation. And now they even send me enough money that I can buy pot and go smoke weed with my friends. So why should I work?
If we can individualize, somehow specify, I know that it's probably not just a date, but there is some sort of a period when all this started to happen. Professor Paul, tell me, please.
Well, the first progressive president, if you want to use the enemy's terms,
yes,
was Woodrow Wilson. Wilson was obsessed with what he called progressivism. It was born with Senator LaFollette in Wisconsin, but when Wilson, every time he won an elective office, indeed, I must ask you, Luke, when you were a little boy, did you have a treehouse?
Yes, I did.
Were there girls allowed?
Yes.
Oh, Italian. We would never do that. Anyway,
Okay.
though, but it was a club.
Yes, I understand what you mean.
Okay. Woodrow Wilson had one too. And he immediately wrote out a 24-page document on parliamentary procedure in his treehouse.
Wow, interesting.
He was obsessed with parliamentary democracy and tried to institute it, first of all as governor of New Jersey, and later as president of the United States.
Yes.
It involves more action by the people as a whole, the concept of folks populi, folks die, the voice of the people is the voice of God, and that the government plays a proactive space in succeeding social wrongs and forcing prosperity, literally forcing prosperity, so-called, on the people at large.
I understand. And Bill, because, my listeners, I think most of them, they are pretty much informed, but sometimes we have new listeners. Let's remind why the word democracy is so dangerous and so much that not even in any of our founding documents was ever mentioned, and why we supposed to be a constitutional republic and not a democracy.
Well, Greece tried the democracy.
They also tried tyranny, Bill.
Yes.
And it doesn't work. For centuries, they've tried socialism. Eventually, you run out of the people's money, and that doesn't work. Everybody thinks they got a better idea of how to do socialism, but it always entails other people's money.
Yes.
But when you run out of that other people's money, then there's total anarchy.
And also another thing, is beside the money aspect, of course, is it's like freedom because it's property and they can take your property. The sad thing is 51% of the voters can pretty much take your rights away because they can say, now we decide majority rules, we have rights because we give you rights. I mean, the majority give you rights, or at least they can also take these rights away. So it becomes immediately tyranny for the other 49%.
There's also the unfortunate case of most people in the 20th century, or 21st century, I'm sorry, don't know what a right is.
Exactly. That's what I was coming right. Next question. What is the difference between a right and a privilege, Paul?
All right. First of all, let me ask you a question. Let's go to the Bill of Rights on the Constitution.
Yes.
Okay. Just take something that isn't controversial. Oh, that won't work. All right. Fourth Amendment.
Yes.
In time of peace, no soldiers will be quartered in your house. They can't make you. Is that a right?
What do you mean, is it a right?
Well, is it a right? You have the right to do that.
I have a right, not because the Bill of Rights says that. I have rights before even the Bill of Rights.
Oh, what a pleasure! You just bypassed my usual trap.
Bill of Rights doesn't give me any rights. It's just enumeration of the rights.
Yes.
Correct.
All right. Okay. Now, what do all these things haven't? James Madison, said the Bill of Rights was Alexander Hamilton said that the Bill of Rights was a very pleasing treatise on ethics.
Okay.
If you put the word ought instead of no in, he says it's closer to the truth. To be a right, it must be inalienable.
Inalienable.
From, the 18th century fathers didn't like to use the G word. They said the master of the universe, the creator.
I understand.
They're talking about God.
Yes.
All right. Those rights come, and what do we have to do? Do you have the right to free speech?
Yes, I do.
All right. What do I have to do to maintain that?
Just doing it.
That's right. Leave you alone.
Yes.
Forbear. That is my responsibility.
Yes.
Now, here's the second trap. Now, coming up. Fair warning, because you did so well on the first one.
Good. I'm trying to pass my class, okay?
That's right. The second one is, does everyone have the right to but to adequate housing?
No, that's not a right.
Why isn't it a right, Luca?
Because you got to get from somebody else that.
Oh, excellent,
Okay.
excellent. I could not be more. That is precisely true. For there to be a right of habitation, there must be a responsibility of somebody else to provide it for you.
Exactly.
What if they don't want to? Well, then, as George Bernard Shaw said, they'll have to be killed in some sort of painless manner.
Exactly, and that's the truth, and that's the point. That's why I think it's the foundation. That's why this show, even it's called Law of Guns and Freedom. It's all connected. If we don't understand that rights, it could be the Second Amendment, the First Amendment, any rights we have, we don't understand the difference between rights and privilege, we're not going to have any more guns. We're not going to have any more freedom. It's all interconnected, and I think that's why I stress a lot to finding, learning things that unfortunately by design, in the last at least 67 years, they've been hidden in the public education system completely to try to get masses just as a bunch of slaves. Right
now, I'd like to come back a little bit.
Yes.
And our founding fathers, and even go back to the Pilgrims, there was no such thing as welfare. They helped each other. And all the way up through our 200th birthday in 1976, we created the greatest wealth on earth. Our founding fathers come up with a formula by leave people alone and let their own ingenuity create wealth. And by our 200th birthday, we were number one in the world in everything. Education.
Yes.
Then, 2 years later, Jimmy Carter said, let's put the Federal Department of Education in place, quote unquote, to improve education. Well, 40 some odd years later, and about $85 billion a year to the people in Washington for it, we're now ranked at best 25th in a subject and 35th in other subjects.
This is not by accident, guys. I'm sure you're aware about it. This is a design because America was, and I believe it still is, the last bastion, last experiment, the only and the last experiment that pretty much created sovereignty and the power into a different type of concept into the people with the concept of rights, no privileges that nobody else ever had. And when you want to create a global government, and we will go probably soon now on the next question, you cannot have free people with a Bill of Rights, with a sovereignty that pretty much do not fit into this global new state of socialistic tyranny. What do you think, Paul?
Well, several things. It was a conflict. First of all, I disagree with my good friend Bill in that there is a 1-to-1 ratio between guns and democracy.
Yes.
I don't think there is. Now, this is said as a big gun guy. You can walk into my living room, and what's in my side table by my chair, Bill?
A 357.
That's right. Now, I remember going to a conference that was held by Senator Lieberman of Connecticut.
Yes.
And he's very eloquent, he's a good speaker.
Yes.
At the end, he, of course, did what all of us do when we give these public speeches. We ask for Q&A. And this kid raised his hand and he said, Senator, may I ask you what is the primary function of government? And Senator Lieberman, long known for his candor, said, to redistribute wealth.
Here we go. That was pretty much, at least it was honest. At least he was honest.
Yes.
And that's the scary thing. Now people believe that this is the way. I mean, if you go out there and they demand, it's their entitlement, it becomes like it's some sort of a right. And don't mess with that because you're going to have riots on the streets, okay? That's pretty much the story. And that's sad because, I see coming from Europe, the same pattern. Of course, we never had it. We always been under some kings or a queen, and then after we became to some sort of a different type of rulers, it's called socialism. They're pretty much still under the same controllers of the same elite, because they give you the idea that there is some sort of power to the people. Just power to the bankers. There are some central banks for every country. They control pretty much all the media, and they love democracy because through democracy you can control a bunch of slaves and make it do exactly what you want them to do. That's pretty much the short story I'll give you from my non-educated version. Now, let's talk about what's happening to this country, because the school system, unfortunately, we know, is part of a plan. They need to dumb down this new generation, because after it's gone, people like you, they're gone. They don't even need to fight back these people because they have no idea what they lost. They have no idea what they're missing.
Well, that's exactly why we started our PACE program.
Yes.
And it's now in its fourth year.
Yes.
And we now have nine classes going after school, and you would be amazed attending. Matter of fact, I'd invite you to come
I would
meet
love that.
some of the kids.
Yes, I would love
Oh,
that.
that'd be
in the
splendid.
Constitution class.
I would love that.
And when you let them see and read and talk about the true founding of our country and how great it became, besides becoming so wealthy, we're also the most generous country on earth with everything we do. Right now, that Malaysian airliner that's down, we have all sorts of ships out there, planes, looking for it.
Amazingly enough, so do the Red Chinese.
Question, guys. Speaking about charity versus extortion, okay? Because I believe in charity, I do not believe in government extortion. That would be taxation anyway. You mentioned before President Wilson, okay, that is connected to the Federal Reserve Act 1913, as I'm sure you're very well aware.
Right.
And you know very well, probably in the Constitution, that the type of taxation that we have now on the income was completely unconstitutional. You had to do an amendment.
Well, I've never understood that, I must tell you.
Okay.
Because Article 1, Section 8 allows the Congress of the United States to raise funds.
Yes.
Taxation.
Yes.
One of the principal reasons why we adopted the Constitution
Yes.
was because so the government could tax. The Articles of Confederation, the previous government, states could willingly give but could not be coerced.
Yes.
More democratic? Oh, yes. Did it work? No.
No. But what's about this? Okay, go ahead, please. Keep
But
going.
the interesting thing with the American experience in banks is Andy Jackson. Now, I was taught what a bad guy he was for shutting down the United States Bank. In actuality, he knew that a national bank could control the entire nation.
Exactly.
So we are one of the few countries in the world that doesn't have a national bank.
But what I say, we have worse than we have now a private cartel. It's called Federal Reserve. That is not federal at all. It's private, like a Federal Express. They pretty much keep by the balls, and excuse me for the rough expression, but pretty much control. They don't care who makes the laws. They care who print the money. And it's, that out of thin air, we don't have anymore the backing of gold or silver. And with the power of some sort of a magic, hidden source, now we have an elite of, not just now, but since 1913, the dream of every banker can control a nation currency. And not only that, they also charge us interest. Think about it.
For the privilege of it.
The privilege. I mean, as a free nation.
And they also charge us a fee even for putting that money out there.
Exactly. So that's my point. Before even we go into the constitutionally, of course, how the taxes that used to be raised according to the Constitution, no according to this progressive income tax, completely different. Of course, they had to create this sort of a 16th Amendment, that there are also a lot of voices out there that was even really ratified, but we won't go there now. My point is, the idea, and that's what I'm trying to say to even the other side, because I have no sides. I'm side for the truth, and I believe in freedom and Constitution. But when I see, for example, let's say a progressive, okay, that really believes into the entitlement mentality, I say, guys, would be nice, instead of having a private central bank that charges for interest whenever they try to print this monopoly money, that they mean monopoly, but they're real for us because we need to really pay back with real work. What would be nice to go back and learn about it. Before 1913, we did not have a private central bank. The government, they had the power to control the currency, and at least we didn't get charged the interest, because the bottom is the income tax. According to a Reagan investigation, I think it was, I forgot the name, anyway, it was an investigation, independent investigation. All the income tax does, it just pay part of the interest of the debt with the Federal Reserve, and the rest of the money goes just in government expenses. I mean, there is no service really provided by the income tax.
Spend the hell out of it.
Exactly. So that's my point, We have a serious problem, I think, that pretty much at the bottom of the last 100 years of this country, we lost the control of our currency. What do you think about that, Paul? How can we fix that? How can we get back to our...
All right. First of all, Constitution gives... that's my beginning sentence for everything. I'm sorry.
Yes.
But the Constitution says that Congress have the power to coin money.
Yes.
It doesn't say anything about printing.
Mm-hmm.
Now we had paper money
Yes.
during the time of the Constitutional Convention. They were called Continental dollars. And if you've ever heard the phrase "not worth a continental,"
Yes, I understand. It's
you'll
paper.
know they became worthless.
Yes.
In the Civil War, the government printed paper notes that were green on the back. They, of course, consequently were called greenbacks. They were also worthless. So I think if we want to get control of the currency, we must get back to metallic basing.
Mm-hmm.
And I will go so far as to just get the government out of banking altogether.
At that point, I understand. The only thing now, the government is some sort of strange... Mussolini used to say the union between corporation and government is called fascism. The Federal Reserve, it's a very interesting hybrid. It is no government, but at the same time it's not really private. It's called this sort of a federalization. They have a special privilege granted by the government to control our currency. So it's not free market, just the monopoly mafia that controls our government. What would be the alternative to the private Federal Reserve?
Well, once again, you cannot inflate a coin-based. Secondly, we have to get out of any conception of syndicalism.
Mm-hmm.
Did I just use my...
50 cent word.
Yeah,
Yes.
the guys have... Everyone I work with has a little fee going around that what time of the day I will use one of my big words.
Okay.
And so Bill 1 today, syndicalism, which is all the industries are in a syndicate altogether, from the president of General Motors, let's say,
Mm-hmm.
down to the poor guy who puts the last bolt on a Ford. They're completely independent of everybody else and answer only to themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Incidentally, the guy who invented it was Prince Bakunin, the head of anarchism in the 19th century. The only time it's ever been used in a government is in Italy under fascism.
Yes.
Now, I always think it's interesting that the anarchist of the 19th century provides the system of government for the fascists of the 20th century.
Okay, that's true. That part is true. I have a question for you. And, of course, I would like to have a show probably just about the private Federal Reserve and alternative, because my opinion, we should go way back. The Feds should be abolished.
Yes.
And we go back to before pre-1913. And I think President Jackson was the last one that really was proud to say it before he died. Correct me if I'm wrong. I defeated the bank. I mean, he kept this republic still a republic, not a control corporate republic under the control of the private bankers. We will go there. We will do a show just about that because there is so much to say.
Yes.
I have a question that is pretty much coming back to the principle of freedom. We said before we have rights until we do infringe on other people's rights, right? We correct? We agree on that. I agree with that. For example, as I said, do I have a right to gamble? I mean, if it's my money, I'm not stealing from anybody. Why the government should forbid me the right to spend and dispose the money in the way I want?
Rather than just wish you the best of luck.
Yeah, that's my point. So we agree on that because I don't gamble, for example, but I believe that, for example, in the state of Arizona, would be very good for revenues, especially because it's nonsense. People, all they have to do go to the casino, Indian casino, or just cross the river. It's an hypocrisy. Why our state legislators don't understand that it's our freedom, our money. We should not be penalized just because we want to use them in a strange way, like gambling. So you agree people should have the right to gamble, Paul?
Well, yes, and I'm very much in the minority in this wise because they'll say, well, it's a bad element, it's a bad thing to do. Well, those are moral arguments, and
Yes.
I might accept them, at least some of them.
Okay.
Incidentally, I'm a member of Gamblers Anonymous, so I know.
Okay.
But I wish all Americans the best of luck.
I understand. And
Let them go and use their one-armed bandits and their video screen and play blackjack. My dearest friend from my undergraduate days at Notre Dame is a professional card counter.
Yes.
He's been banned from Vegas.
Wow. Wow. Well, you agree with that, Bill?
Yes, absolutely.
I mean, it's at least after all, it's if you're responsible. Of course, I'm not going to pay for your bills. You can go gamble, but if you lose your home, don't tell me that I should pay for your expenses. With freedom comes responsibility.
Absolutely.
That's my principle. Good. I mean, and as I said, we don't need to agree on everything. I'm just trying to challenge each other with even just concept, of freedom, and we try to apply this one to everything. For example, when I say people that I don't like guns, that's fine. You don't have to like it. I like them. Okay, that's plenty. And I have rights, and I'm responsible. And if I make a mistake, I'm the only one to pay, not the rest of the collectivism. For example, I was having a conversation like last week with the other guest. He agrees with me that, let's say, if somebody drinks, okay, and he creates an accident or drink, because intoxicated, he should be the only one pay the consequences for that accident because it's normal. I mean, if tomorrow, let's say, somebody get drunk and get a DUI, unfortunately creates an accident, not the rest of the society shouldn't be penalized because of his poor actions. The same thing, I believe, the same process should be adopted for also the guns. If somebody is a crazy person and commit a crime, they shouldn't start to come out with legislation to try to curb or deny our rights. Don't you agree with that?
Correct.
I have a little test.
Go ahead, please, give me the test.
All right, I will give you the test.
Yes.
Usually I reserve it for serving police officers.
Okay.
So pretend you're a policeman.
I pretend.
Now. Okay.
They pretend too many times, trust me.
Officer?
Yes.
Outside of domestic violence,
yes,
in your experience, how many crimes have you come across that were created by the perpetrator holding a license and a registration of the firearm he used during the felony?
That's a good question.
I have never found in over 40 years a single policeman who had a single incidence of that happening.
Exactly, and that's my point. Even if there is one, we're talking about, first of all, I don't care if 99.9% of the world out there want to decide that they want to take my guns. This is not my guns' rights. They're not for sale. They're not for debate. They're not for vote. I'm still going to keep them. That's why the republic's supposed to be a republic. But let's say we want to use their mindset of polls and things. The gun crimes, as you said, from law-abiding citizen, it's probably less. No, it is for sure less than the statistic of people that have been killed by bees.
Yes.
Oh, absolutely.
You know that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Actually, it's a little bit lower than people being killed by Koch machines.
Exactly. So that's my point, And of course, they're trying to instrumentalize, and I'll go in the second hour to show how, unfortunately, yes, not just the Democrats, but unfortunately, they are the leaders into this one. Even some funny Republicans, they are leading the way to deprive us our rights. But why? We know history. I'm trying to tell him. What is the purpose of the Second Amendment, Paul?
All right. Originally, the United States, before the Constitution,
yes,
existed for 150 years. During that time, there was a universal militia system in 12 of the 13 colonies. It was absolutely mandatory for you to provide powder, ball, and a weapon and show up at militia musters, sometimes 4 times a year, sometimes monthly, or you couldn't vote.
Interesting.
Now, why this? Of course, the omnipresence of both the French in Canada and the Indians, who were not friendly. Now, that's another question. But anyway, you didn't choose to be in the militia. You were in 12 of 13 states. Pennsylvania was the only one that did not do it. If you were a member of the Society of Friends, we call them Quakers, you did not have to belong to the militia. But you had to pay the equivalent of belonging to the militia to some other non-Quaker in Pennsylvania. Now, somewhere in the 1820s, we moved from the universal militia system to the volunteer militia system, which still exists today. The militias being, of course, the state National Guard.
But, the point is, I understand all the history, and of course I would like to remind also the people that, this is the well-organized militia. It was the National Guard. The National Guard didn't create it till the beginning of the 1900s,
Yeah,
okay?
That's right.
Let me add something on that. Our founders when they created the Second Amendment,
Yes.
it was put in place
Mm-hmm.
to defend
The
the
state.
general public and the states against the federal government.
Okay. Not only that, I mean, my opinion, and this is just my humble opinion as an immigrant that try to study every day. The Second Amendment is the right, individual right, like all the rest of the Bill of Rights, that creates the difference between a nation that the ultimate control is into the people, not into the government, that at the end of the day, we watching the watchers. The tyranny is never going to be completely take over until the law-abiding citizen is armed. That's thing that is not a privilege, it's a right. And this is coming back from the history, you know, I mean, Greeks and Romans, slaves always been disarmed. And what I believe also, you know, one thing that we have here still, the intent was, it's not about, for example, now there is just now, I need to read it the next hour, Senator Feinstein is trying to reinstall this assault weapon ban for all weapons that they are not for sporting purposes. I hope you can listen me, piece of
I
trash.
could use a rock for a sporting purpose.
Exactly. I'm not going to spend $5,000 50 caliber for killing a freaking bear, okay? This is, for me, a weapon. It's the final tool to defend my freedom against enemy, foreign and domestic. Simple as that. So everybody that's bringing the topic, oh, you don't need the 30 rounds magazine for hunting. I don't even hunt. Let me give you this idea. I don't even eat meat, okay? I'm here, my guns, and I train to defend my freedom and to defend America. Simple as that. And I'm not apologetic. And I'm never going to buy a rifle that has other purposes, because I don't even like to kill animals, okay? So that's my point. And that's what I would like to remind to our people, listeners, especially in the school system. I was throwing up yesterday when I saw that there is a new assignment, now Common Core, I'm sure you're aware about it.
Absolutely.
Did you see the models they had talking about it? Little Miss Muffet, as you know, the teachers, they were just these non-threatening, sweet, middle-aged, overweight ladies.
No, I didn't see
They're
that.
all excited about Common Core. It was the biggest piece of, oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay. That's okay. I understand.
I almost used a bad word.
All I know that the point is this one. In the Common Core now legislation, first of all, the Second Amendment, yes, you can have guns, but must be registered. That's one thing. It was yesterday outside there. And there are so many other things. So, listen, I would like to keep going. We touch a little bit everything. I say a little bit Second Amendment, a little bit about gambling. What's about prostitution? I mean, if we go with the principle that this is my body, we are bought is a private transaction. There is no coercion. There is no violence. Mm-hmm. And I can sell as a man, you know, let's say I go work on the field and use the muscle of my body and sell my services like a carpenter or whatever. Maybe a woman is not as strong. And I'm not saying that I advocate that, because if I have a daughter, I say, please don't do that. I never been in my life with a prostitution. I don't think morally is right. All I'm saying, though, for the principle of freedom, and if they don't create problems, and if they don't create some sort of infringement on other people's rights, why not a man or a woman should be penalized and criminalized if they want to sell part of their bodies? What do you think?
Let's look at the state of Nevada.
Mm-hmm.
Prostitution is legal there.
No, it's not. In 2 counties of Nevada.
In 2 counties.
Okay.
So,
well, I'm sure the goats and horses in other counties.
Okay, go ahead. But forget about it as a general principle. I'm not talking about Nevada. I'm talking about as a human being. You know, with the function of government, should be staying away from my morality, because at the end of the day, right now, I think it's kind of also in hypocrisy. Some people can do a porn movie, okay, can sell their body in the porn industry, and that's legal, and they're still performing sexual acts.
Right.
If somebody, let's say, and I'm not saying it's right, okay, in the privacy of their own home, they want to create some sort of business or whatever, and then they're going to get raided and they're going to spend time in jail. I mean, especially if there is no type, the idea is always the same, no infringement on other people's rights.
Correct.
What do you think about that as a general principle? You know, I understand the Nevada story.
Well, there are 2 things about prostitution. Usually I'm always on 2 sides of the fence.
Yes.
One of them is, if a girl says yes, who are we to say, honey, don't take any money for it? How can we say those? On the other hand, prostitution is a clear and present danger to the public health.
Okay? But just a question though, like every other industry, there's always some sort of, let's say we want to take care that no other people get. I can get honestly in danger if I go in a bar because I'm irresponsible and I'm going to start to flirt with the first person I found there. Even if I don't pay them or I don't need to pay them, I can be as many dangers, even more dangerous probably if I go maybe in a controlled environment. Like now you have a business that I'm not even going to the licensing part, but the point is there are some sort of a basic rules to guarantee the public the safety. Like in the business I must have some fire inspection for the public, the fire department. Same thing if I perform, let's say for example I sell food. I know if I sell food I must have a test to guarantee that I am clean.
An ongoing inspection.
Yes, for the inspection. I think the same way you treat food, you should treat this sort of a wannabe profession. And the point is, it's my right at the end of the day to be stupid. It's my right to be an idiot,
right to fail,
to lose money, and to get sick. Because right now people can do the same type of damage to themselves and to others. Don't get me wrong, I understand where you're going, without even paying. All you gotta do is be responsible, go drunk, hook up on the bar with the wrong person, you're going to be back with a lot of diseases. So can you stay another 10 minutes, the second hour, please?
Sure. Of course.
Please, okay? Before we continue, guys, I want to let you know we have a second hour. We're going to talk still about rights and, of course, more Second Amendment. And the last 30 minutes, we will talk specifically about how to get 4 free days. Handgun class, front sight, $2,000 offered by your beloved one. Why am I doing this? First of all, I'm not Santa. I work for a living, but I believe that as a gun owner, understanding what's going on right now with this social moment in our country, economic, political, our freedom is in danger. So we need more law-abiding citizens with guns, responsible, they can train other people. So please don't go away. Meanwhile, if you want to play around, go to my website, lovegunsfreedom.com. God help us and save us.
He's a songwriter, a poet, a rifleman.
I'm not afraid.
And a constitutional activist.
I'm not afraid.
Italian by birth.
I'm not afraid.
American by choice. Gianluca Zanna.
I'm not afraid.
And his new CD, Love, Guns, and Freedom. 16 powerful songs on one CD from the heart of a patriot. For download or to order the CD, go to www.lovegunsfreedom.com. That's www.lovegunsfreedom.com. Lyrics for your mind, music for your heart. Gianluca Zanna's new CD, Love, Guns, and Freedom.
Hey, we are back into the Love, Guns, and Freedom live on K-Talks, 1340 AM, Sunday show. My gosh, time goes so fast. 1 hour with our guest. Paul and Bill. How you doing, guys? Back on the air?
Doing good.
Okay.
We're doing fine.
We were talking about a little bit everything, okay? The show is about guns, but also we talk about rights. More important, rights, because guns is the Second Amendment, is another right. I don't just focus on the guns part. Guns for me is a symbol. It's a symbol of freedom. Because remember, in the history of humanity, every civilization, first thing the conquerors did. Look, for example, at Julius Caesar's. There is a beautiful painting, when conquered Gauls, the actual France, and then all the kings, like Vercingetorix. I don't know if I said it right. Anyway,
Vercingetorix.
Good, very professor. I'm glad you're here with me. You help me out. What they do, they submit and they pile up all their weapons, all their swords. At the time, of course, they didn't have rifles, in front of their new masters. And at that point, slaves are never armed. That's why for me, to have a gun, it is not just because people say, oh, you must be afraid. No, I'm not afraid. Of course, as a human being, I have factors of fears in my life, but I control. I have a gun because I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid to stand for freedom. I'm not afraid to stand against evil. I took my decision, and more important, I'm not your slave, government. So Feinstein, Obama, Schumer, all the scum that they're listening to the show, NSA, I'm sure you're taking a good note about it. You can reap in hell. I don't know if it's right in English, but you get the idea. I'm never going to disarm me. And not because that you make a law is going to change anything. It's my right. I'm not your slave. Simple as that. Paul, we were talking before the show. You appreciate guns for several reasons. Give me a little bit of an idea exactly what is the purpose for you to buy a gun.
Well, first and foremost, of course, is defense of my home and family.
Okay.
I used to have, in addition to guns, a Rottweiler. And he served that purpose. Poor Bill, he can't get near my yard when we had the Rottweiler.
Okay.
He took him for a Democrat. The second thing is, shooting is fun.
Good.
I like to go out on the range, put on my earphones, my wife puts on hers, and we run off a few rounds. And it's very enjoyable. Thirdly, it is a symbol of my being an American.
Very good.
I'm reminded of one of Sam Colt's messages with his Peacemaker, the 45 of Western fame. He says, "Fear no man, regardless of size. I am Colt. I equalize."
That's very neat. I like that. I didn't know that. Bill, what is your... you enjoy the Second Amendment? Beside the political aspect or philosophical aspect, do you go out a little bit?
Yes. Matter of fact, I have two friends that I go shooting with a fair amount.
Okay.
And we have to wind up going up to Las Vegas to where you can still buy ammo occasionally at reasonable prices. But yes, I have, first and foremost, as Paul said, a gun at home, loaded, ready to bear.
Okay.
To protect my family and my house.
Good. And listen, but before I forget, I know that you're busy, and maybe I don't know your physical health. Professor Paul, I'm so impressed you're here. I invite everybody, so I don't want to. I have these 40 places for the class, handgun class. You're welcome to come if you want to. And even if it can be physically demanding. Front sight, yes.
I'll give you my right arm.
Come, please come.
Okay.
Seriously, after the show, that's why
right.
I don't assume anything, because remember, even if the class is pretty demanding, it's 8 hours, you can stop and you can do according to your pace. They have a great training, they have a great curriculum, great instructors. It is not a boot camp. It is something that from younger people to all the older people. I have a lot of friends that they are already in their senior ages, and they are great. You can rest, relax. So please come.
I only have... I need to mention, as you noticed, of course, I am stricken with Parkinson's disease.
I understand, but...
So it would be difficult for me to go alone. I would like to suggest that
Well,
my
together,
wife come too.
together. Please come with me.
If I can do it with you, I'll certainly.
I will give you details.
All right.
Just to let you know, for the listeners, since they're listening, we have limited place. We almost pretty much booked, but it's very simple.
Fantastic.
Get my email. This is my email. Go to my website, lovegunsfreedom.com. On the homepage, there is my email, zanna@zanna.us. All you have to do is send me an email. I want to go to front side. That's it.
I want to go to the front side.
That's it. You're in. You're in. Send me the email. I will send you the application, okay, that you send directly to front side to put my name, since it's also, of course, I'm taking care of that. And they tell you exactly the location. The date is going to be the 4th of April. Okay, it's a Friday.
Oh, that's next week.
No, almost. 10 days. 2 weeks. 2 weeks. Yes, 4th
yeah.
of April is Friday. That weekend for 4 days. Of course, if you need to leave early, you leave early, but it's a 2,000 class. Don't miss it. It's an incredible training, and it's more than just shooting. The classes, they also give you the curriculum, the learning experience, the after the class. It's amazing. Seriously, I'm a life member. I'm a diamond member, also an ambassador member, and I paid thousands before I joined them, and I have this opportunity I can give back. And normally I could sell these classes, but I really believe as America, we are right now in a very critical stage.
Yes.
And in our community, I'm just a little voice. I'm a regular little guy. Where I live, the people that I can reach, I would love to have 40 more trained educated, responsible gun owners in our community. That's my goal, and that's what I'm trying to do. And then you can hopefully do the same to others, you know. So that's the point. So good. I'm glad we talked. So I don't ask you anything. After the class, you will send me your email.
I'm absolutely delighted.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. I'm so excited. So anyway, that's the point, the Second Amendment. That's what we're talking about. And I invite, don't forget, Michael Weiser, Democrats, guns, they're not evil. Unfortunately, it's the person or the individual that can be evil. The gun is just a little tool, like a car. And at the end of the day, we should all be concerned as Americans, especially when we live in right now under National Defense Authorization Act. I would like to ask you guys, and also under the Patriot Act, there was, I want to be fair here, because the National Defense Authorization Act, voted by the Senate and, of course, by Congress, and then with the blessing of Obama, that they wanted really to be sure there were no exception, that even, especially American citizens, could be under this sort of tyranny. Now, it didn't happen just because out of the blue. We've been under martial law, soft martial law, since FDR. We never really, emergency power never really went away. But for sure, the Patriot Act was a precursor of what we have today. They always start with something that makes sense, something that it's logical. And then we realize that, as Benjamin Franklin said, what did he say, Professor? You know that. When it comes down to liberties and securities.
Oh, the nation that will trade liberty for security will get neither.
Good. I need to have you with me always, Professor, so you can always help me out when I...
Oh, there's another one by him.
Go ahead, please.
That is, a nation that will trade liberty for security will have slavery and will deserve it.
Good. I agree with that. So, what is your opinion? National Defense Authorization Act, the power of the government. Explain it.
Well, I read some of it. And that has totally and completely turned me off of John McCain, because he co-wrote it with a Democrat from Michigan, I believe, Carl Levin.
Yeah, but he came in straight on. Levin is at least honest about it.
Yeah, but McCain, you know, if there was ever a term to be appropriate, rhino, he needs to have his R stripped from his name and put a S there, not even a D, an S.
I think it's Gestapo. That's his name should be for SS probably. No, I really believe that, because this is no more about politics. You know, we can disagree on many aspects. I think they're bad. You know, like socioeconomic, it's terrible. But we're talking about, we go before pre-Magna Carta. Professor, enlighten me. The Magna Carta 1215. They're supposed to be an habeas corpus, a due process. King cannot just get you and kidnap you and throw you into the dungeon like now they can do.
You do understand, though, that was between the king and the barons.
Yes.
The poor schmucks out in the...
I understand.
They got no part of it.
But now we're all schmucks. You understand that?
Yeah.
We're all potentially schmucks. The point is, for the first time since the creation of this republic, okay, we have an absolute power into the hands of an executive that also is controlled by bureaucracy, that and completely a human element, could be everybody, can say, Mr. Bill or Mr. Paul or Luca, you are suspected to be a terrorist, that we know very well according to the new definition of domestic terrorism. There are veterans on top of the list, people like us that we believe in criticizing openly some sort of a global government or socialism, or we believe in the Constitution, or anything. And military, there is a repealing of the posse comitatus.
Right.
We go back to now before the Civil War, and they can use military like Chile in Pinochet. I mean, they can kidnap you in the middle of the night and throw you in completely in a dungeon, seriously, not even more jail or prison, no due process, indefinitely. Chills me out.
Right.
May I say a defense of
Go
Mr.
ahead.
Lincoln for just a little while?
Yes.
It is true. The Constitution forbids habeas corpus, rather forbids the absence of habeas corpus, unless you are faced with invasion or domestic insurrection.
Exactly.
President Lincoln was faced with both.
Okay. But the point is, now we're talking about, this is on our soil. The only invasion I see is an invasion of the tyrants. We have invasion of completely a sneak attack from within to create a socialist global government. That's what they're trying to do. I mean, most of our politicians, they're supposed to be all, in my opinion, and I'm standing behind, arrest for treason. Because if you take an oath to defend the Constitution, you every day, you backstab it, and you're completely, you're a traitor. I mean,
That is correct. They took an oath to defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic.
yes,
And all they need to do is look in a mirror and see the domestic enemy.
exactly. So what should we do now? Because the reality is this: we are right now under National Defense Authorization Act that we know very well. It wasn't just Obama; it was both parties at the elite level. Of course, Obama sealed it. We are living in a new America. What is your solution, guys? What is it?
Well,
what are your solution? Well, how can we stop this?
Well, I brought something along with me, and I have some writing on the back that I need to
Okay.
keep. But there is an Army colonel,
Yes.
retired, who is got a website, and if people would Google American Spring,
Okay.
they would learn all about it. He'd like to get anywhere from 1 million to 10 million Americans
Yes.
to go to Washington, D.C. starting May 16th and stay there until all of the Democratic and Republican leadership are removed from office.
Okay.
All like that's going to happen.
I have also, of course, everything we can still dream, and hopefully, maybe I would be happy if at least people would go to their state capitals. That would be the first step.
I'd prefer that.
Yes,
actually.
because it's more possible. I mean, first of all, we need to remind the powers of the states, the 10th Amendment that we still have, and
Yes.
unfortunately, most of the governors sold us out.
And that would lead into the Liberty Amendments, which Mark Levin brings to bear, that the Constitution can be amended
Of course it can.
from the state level.
Yes.
Yes, and was.
Yes, and I listen. I agree. I read this book, or at least a good part of it, and I agree that is, of course, this is part of the Constitution. The idea that the states can amend it completely. There is only one problem, in my humble opinion. First of all, who is going to today amend it? What type of moral depth politicians we have? Do we have any Thomas Jefferson walking around? Any George Washington? Any Madison?
Wish we did.
I know. I'm very concerned. If we need to start to reopen something that wasn't perfect, I understand the Constitution, there are things that we could improve. But right now, we have already people that proven to us, with the people, that they are traitors, they are liars, they can put their hands on the Bible 10 times a day.
And it's a book.
It's just a book. So, if I give that power to reopen something, even not perfect, but so far the best thing we still have, to this new generation of devils, that's what they are in my opinion, most of them, not everybody, I'm afraid that we can open some sort of a Pandora's vase, that we will never be able to close it back. Then, another thing I have, we already have very much black and white, many parts of the constitutions. They're so simple to understand. Even a guy like me with an accent and no any type of school background, educational background from another country can understand. So what is going to be now? What type of magic power are we going to put in the new constitution that is going somehow to constrain and make these new legislators obey to them? I don't believe. What I would do now, the energy that I have, I want to replace with the real statesmen, real people that understand the oath of office, instead of using the energies to try to rewrite something that so far is the best thing we have, and I'm afraid that we could be rewritten in a very dangerous way.
This is the exact reasoning of James Madison.
Mm-hmm.
He said the document must be possibly amended, but the amendment should be difficult to obtain.
I understand. But look at now Hawaii. Look at New York. Look at, for example, New Jersey. Look at Connecticut. Look at many other states. Colorado also is gone. I mean, we already have a minority. Arizona is standing almost alone in the principle that we want to believe, or some of them, that is about limited government, constitutional government. I'm afraid that when they give the power to all these states, especially on the East Coast or West Coast, to rewrite these documents, we are already lost there.
Well, let me tell you this.
Yes.
After the 2012 election, I printed off maps of every state in the union,
Yes.
and it was by county. And then if you looked at the entire map of the U.S. and stood 10 feet away from it, it's 90% red, maybe even more. So it's only the large cities like Chicago, New York, LA, Philadelphia, San Francisco, the concentrations that have tilted the power there. But state legislature-wise, I think, and it wouldn't be a case of creating a formal constitutional convention. Each state can present something, and then they can work behind the scenes.
I understand. My little point, first of all, I don't believe anymore in red and blue because I see many of the red they're as blue as they are. And look, for example, at federal level, I believe that we still have some sort of course, control on the state level. We have good legislators that we can still control. But still, I believe that at the moment that the federal government under the control of special international interests, let's not forget also there are a lot of special interests like George Soros is trying to push for this type of events to reopen this constitutional convention, because we have a problem here. Now, on the paper, even of course this is for me doesn't give me rights. We talked before. This is just an enumeration of rights in the Bill of Rights, and the Constitution is just a constraint of the government. We have constraint, okay? The moment that they remove this constraint, we are automatically illegals. We are the lawbreakers, okay? Now they are the lawbreakers, and there is nothing we can do. Imagine if there was, one second, let me see who's calling here. 1 second. Hello. Okay, caller, are you still there?
Yeah, hey, Luca.
Who is there? Oh, Frank?
Hello, Lauren.
Lauren, how you doing, man? What's going on?
Oh, I'm just listening to you, and I am very much against a constitutional convention because we don't get to choose who goes or what is done there. And I think that's one of the worst ideas nowadays is at this time and place where we're at. We could get McCain and Pelosi and Feinstein. They could be the ones that's going to the convention.
They would be.
They would be?
It's a very dangerous thing right now.
Okay.
I think you just need to reelect people when it comes up their time. Get them guys out of there.
Okay, let's see Professor Paul and Bill what they have to say about it. Thank you for the call, okay?
Bye-bye.
Thanks. Okay, go ahead, please, Paul.
Okay, first of all, we had a couple of crises in our histories that may help us in the present. John C. Calhoun of South Carolina wrote the Doctrine of Nullification. That was, if states had absolutely tantamount, horrible problem, and the federal government did not respond to it or responded in a way in which they disagreed, the state government was under no compulsion to obey the national government. Now, let's take Arizona as a modern example. Overwhelmingly, there is something we have that scares us to death and is not shared by nearly everyone else in the country: illegal immigration. I believe that Arizona should go ahead and act unilaterally. And states have the power that John C. Calhoun was talking about, that the federal government, under extreme circumstances, simply can be barred from the actions of the state.
I understand, and I would like to interact with you. I completely agree with you. There's only two problems. There are only two problems. Number one is they control. There is a council first of all, the Council of Governors that is being created by executive orders just the last few years. I mean, bottom line, the governors now, in my opinion, most of them, they're just puppets. And they've been warned. I mean, the governors right now, I mean, look at also there was Perry, just went to the last meeting. He was freaking out. I mean, the president is not acting anymore as the president. He's acting like the king and the general. And the other one, they're just some sort of figures, okay? Let's not forget that beside the National Defense Authorization Act, now we have Homeland Security, with 3,000 armored vehicles, with 3 billion rounds of ammunition, with already a police force that our National Guard is being deployed overseas, way away from home, most of them. So the governors, they understand that all they need to do is say the wrong thing. There are enough executive orders, and they can be technically first demonized. First, they're going to go after them politically. Then they can go after them, like set them up. And then they have the power now. The federal government has enough power and manpower to go after them militarily. That's the reality. I mean, we don't want to talk about this, but we are really, in my opinion, I'm not a professor like you, but just reading history a little bit. We are here, like in Germany, before really that the time that the Republic became out, the realization of the right when the Germany from a republic became the Germany that we knew during World War II. It happened in the same stages.
Yes.
Okay. People started to realize slowly, too late, what they'd done. So I believe that we're at this point. Even what you said, the nullification, is a great point. But at the end of the day, even the idea of the Civil War, the rights of the state, they join a union, they can get out the union. With Lincoln, they lost that right.
Never had it.
Technically, they had it in many contracts of many states, like Texas.
Two.
Yes, and this
Virginia.
Yes.
And Texas.
And they tried to do it. The point at the end of the day, as Mao Zedong says, every political power comes out of the barrel of the gun. That's they want our guns. That's when they want the people's gun. Because unfortunately, the governor, they're right now merely just a figure. National Guard is federalized, is no more under control. The state militia is pretty much gone, besides few exceptions. The only people we have left, it's each other and God, if you believe in God. That's my opinion. That's why I think it's time to stand each other as Americans. That's why I think we cannot wait help, like in a movie, from some sort of action hero. We must be the action heroes. And that's why I think now at this point, when we know that the 10th Amendment is going to be able to perform only if we say we do that. So I agree with you. I agree with the 10th Amendment. I agree with the power of nullification. But this is all now going to be actuated if enough good men and women, they're going to stand for the right thing. Say, I understand. I may die. I may go face prosecution. But I'm going to stand for my rights, you know.
Well, when we have our Constitution classes,
yes.
Especially with the high school kids, two quotes that we use.
Mm-hmm.
One, Ronald Reagan, that we're one generation away.
Yes.
From freedom. It doesn't get passed through the bloodstream.
Yes.
Every generation has to fight.
Yes.
To maintain it.
I agree. I agree.
And the other one is Edmund Burke, that if good men stand and do nothing,
evil will prevail.
Evil will prevail.
Yes. Listen, guys, I love you so much, and thank you very much. And I would like to let you now with the last phrase, last message, each one of you, and I need to continue the last 20 minutes with the show. Paul, please, whatever you want to say to our listeners.
If you don't mind.
Yes.
Every class I've taught, and I taught my first college class in 1970.
Okay.
So I've been at it a long time.
Yes.
The very last lecture ends exactly the same way. Before I was stricken, I was an athlete.
Mm-hmm.
I love athletics to this day. And my final lecture to my students involves a sports story.
Yes.
It is the Olympic Games representing the United States in the 100-meter dash.
Yes.
As a man known as Bullet Bob Hayes. Some called him the Blur. He won the gold medal in the 100 meters, setting a new world record. He won the gold medal in the 200 meters,
mm-hmm.
setting a world record. Now comes the wonderful time of the 4x100 meter relay. The United States is, of course, favored
mm-hmm.
because running the fourth leg, the anchor position, is Bullet Bob Hayes, the fastest man in the world. Also on the same team is the man who finished second to him, whose name is forgotten by history. The only team that has a chance against them is, you guessed it, the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the gun goes up, they're off. The Americans have a 3-step lead on the Soviets. Now you have a 3-step lead and the fastest man in the world is waiting to take the baton. You have the race won, am I right?
Mm-hmm.
They handed Hayes the baton and he dropped it. Of course, the Soviet did not stop to help him pick it up.
Mm-hmm.
He took off. Well, the commentator said, well, these things happen. This is... Here comes Hayes, Bob Hayes had picked up the baton. There was a telescopic shot of his face and eyes. You've never seen a man with more determined look on his face. He took off and he won his third gold medal. And with computer technology, we can time his last 100-meter dash. He ran it in 8.9.
Wow.
It would be the world's record now today, a generation later.
Yes.
So what I tell my students is, relay races for batons, for torches, or for liberty torches is all the same. One generation lights it and hands it to the next. And my final advice to you is, we're handing you that torch of liberty. Run with it. And if you drop it, pick it up and run like Bob Hayes.
Very good, very good. I really enjoyed that. Thank you. Bill, please, the last message.
Well, in the same light is I know many people around our town, they feel discouraged, disgusted, they don't know what to do.
Yes.
And the thing I tell them is, don't give up.
Yes. Before I forget, there are a couple of things that today, of course, is the first day I wanted to enjoy as much as we could of our different topics. And don't think I forgot. I want you to have it back if it's possible, of course. We're going to have more focused topics next time. Today was just a general introduction about what you do, what we think. And for example, next time I would like to talk about specifically about a topic. It's called the entitlements, okay? Or even different federal program or state program like Social Security, Medicaid. So we can focus about that. And another thing that I know many of my listeners, they're pretty involved because, when it comes down to freedom, we also believe that freedom is supposed to be not just one thing, but our body, who really owns our body. So we will talk next time, hopefully, about also legalization of different plants like marijuana and things like that. Meanwhile, I want to leave you with a song that I wrote. It's called We the People, that you will find on my CD. And I dedicate it to you guys. Thank you for coming. But don't go away because we're going to exchange the emails for the class, okay?
Okay.
Stay there. Here we go.
In order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity. Now we are going to get America back. We the people, we're going to fight for our rights. We the people, are not afraid to die. Now is the time to remind them what's wrong, what's right. And now is the time to get back our country, to get back our lives. They steal, then they lie, they side with the other side. They forgot that we can fight. We the people, we're going to fight for our rights. We the people, are not afraid to die. They try to sell our country, they try to sell our rights. Love for America, no, you can't buy. Amnesty my ass, get back in the line. We are Americans, don't even try. We're ready to fight, we're not afraid to die. Traitors, you can run but you can't hide. the people, and for the people. We the people, we're going to fight, for our rights. We the people, we're not afraid to die. We the people, we're going to fight for our rights.
Here we go, We the People, by Luca, Zanna, myself. You can find, of course, the CD on my website, lovegunsfreedom.com or zanna.us. Okay, that was a great interview. I don't even want to call it an interview. It's more like a beautiful conversation with two great Americans, Professor Paul and Bill. And I need to practice the last name because I don't want to distort people's last name. I'll spell it for you, okay? Professor Paul, last name is Koch. And Bill, last name is, I will spell it, McMahon. I think it's Irish, I guess, right?
McMahon, I think.
Yes, good. There we go. Hey, Michael, are you there?
I'm here.
Okay, this is Michael. Michael, my buddy, is my friend, is a freedom fighter, is also another great American that we share the same values, and also is a great help. You know, he helped me out, helps these shows out, because he's the guy that, after all, he goes out and try to sell the ideas of liberty to our sponsors, because the sponsor, they are the engine that brings the show going on. Right, Michael?
That's right. Luca, yesterday, as a matter of fact, I was out at Tri-State Shooting Park.
Oh, great.
First time I've been out there. Really nice setup. I talked to a gentleman named Robbie Love. He's the proprietor out there. Really nice man. If you don't know where it's at, it's in Mojave Valley off Boundary Cone. Going toward Oatman, it's about 5 miles down Boundary Cone off the 95. So if you haven't been there, you should go check it out. And as a matter of fact, on April 11th, 12th, and 13th, he's having an event, trap shooting competition.
Okay.
Lunch on Saturday and Sunday, and maybe even a couple of really high-profile guests. Not sure yet, but maybe.
I would love to go there to shoot also, because, you know, sometimes when I go to the show here, I bring always my M1 Garand, and especially on the way back, normally I have to go to shoot to my other range where I'm a member, the one in Mojave Sportsman Club. But if there was something closer, that would be great.
Yeah.
What type? Do they have a rifle range?
Rifle range? Yeah, they sure do. They've got, it's really big place out there.
How many yards? What is the longest range they have?
You know what? I'm not sure.
Okay.
But I'm going to talk to him again today, and hopefully we'll have him on board and maybe in studio, and maybe you can be. I'm sure you'll want to go out there and.
Well, I would love to go there. I would like to go shoot there first of all, and also I would like to maybe bring a little bit of the show there. We can do some recording live with people, shooting ideas, and talking about, you know, the second part of the show today. You know, we talk about the first part is mostly rights, try to get each other, learn from each other. That's why I was so glad today about the two great Americans that we got here telling us about their opinions and also their expertise about the Constitution. Now, I would like to talk about a little bit more specific, rifles, you know. The second part is about rifle. First of all, Michael, are you coming with me to the front side class?
It looks like I'm going to be in Phoenix that weekend with my son, so I would love to.
All right.
But this is a medical thing, and that looks like that's
family first. Yeah. Family comes first. I understand that. Anyway, the point is this one, guys. You know, I chose this handgun class because it's one of the best curriculum, and normally most of us, speaking for myself, we always carry a gun during the day. Otherwise, I would say chose also the rifle class. But today I would like to talk about the rifle, you know, the purpose of the rifle. There is a saying, you know, I have a gun to defend my person, a shotgun to defend my castle, and a rifle to defend my liberty. And this is exactly, for me, the purpose of the rifle. For example, just to give you an idea, I'm not a hunter, you know, and I don't really eat that much meat. Of course, I would have no problem to go out for the survival to eat a game or to kill a game. That would be also with the respect, of course, of life, because I believe really much that even in the animal world, I don't want to take a life unless I have to. It's just a principle of philosophy in everything. Life is precious. So I don't want to hear, some politicians or other people that they don't like my rights, that my rifles, they have not any type of hunting purposes. I don't want to say the word normally I would say in real life, just a plain F-U, that's all you will get from me if you tell me something like that, because I have no rights for you. I have no respect for you. If you tell me that I have a rifle just because I'm supposed to go hunting, it means you don't understand the Constitution. More important, you don't understand the Bill of Rights. So the Second Amendment for me was never intended for hunting. And that's why I invite everybody should have a rifle. Michael, you need to buy a rifle.
I need to buy a rifle.
Yeah.
Excuse me. And I noticed when I was out at the range, a lot of guys were shooting the rifles, and it's just something that's enjoyable. People like to do it. It's not, they're not evil people that are or crazy people waving their guns around. They're having fun out there shooting.
Exactly.
It's a recreation.
Exactly. And my point is this way, it's a recreation and it's a right. And the idea is every man, every law-abiding man and woman, they have the duty, in my opinion, also to be the final defender against tyranny, foreign and domestic. Let's say tomorrow, for example, we are invaded, okay? It can happen here. Guess what? They try to make it happen. Let's not forget Pearl Harbor, okay? If you had a population trained with at least a tool, it's not, of course, much in compared to this type of technology we have today, but it's still something that can create some sort of a problem to a foreign invasion. That would be the first thing that would be important, but not important then also our potential domestic takeover. There could be everything. I'm not just saying this administration, could be the next one, okay? So it's not just Obama. Unfortunately, it could be anything happening in history before. So that's why I say rifle, I think it's an important tool in the heritage of America and also in the tradition to defend freedom. Now, there are many opportunities out there. Everybody has different budgets in life. Today, I would like to discuss a little bit briefly about you don't need to be rich. You don't need to be a guy with a lot of money in your bank account. All you can remember, the first weapon, it's your heart, it's yourself, it's your brain.
What would you recommend for someone buying their first rifle?
Okay, first of all, if I had to pick one rifle only, that there is no type of problem with the budget, that means I could afford it, I would go first of all in a semi-auto world, and would be a cartridge chamber in a center fire, of course. That would be the cartridge of choice. If I had to get only one rifle, would be a 308 Winchester or 7.62 by 51 NATO. And then I would, of course, specify the rifle into the M1 Garand or M14. Of course, M1 Garand is the version before the M14, and it was chambered in 30.06. But you also can still be able to get some from this former program that was called Civilian Marksmanship Program. Unfortunately, now it's drying out because Obama passed an executive order that blocked all the imports of our rifles. You could also get that rifle chambered in 308. So if I had to get one ideal rifle, though, it's going to be a little pricey, but would be the M14. Standard, you don't need anything fancy, okay? Just the standard. And it's about, depends on which brand, but let's say Springfield Armory, it's pretty much commercial brand. You can get it for about $1,300, okay? It's a great rifle. Though, not everybody can afford that type of money. I understand, especially now with this economy. I would start to think that there are other options. Even if you go, for example, let's say, into the civilian marksmanship program, this M1 Garand that you can get chambered in 308, you were able to get it for like $900. And the beautiful thing, you don't need to buy magazines. You can just get little metal clips that are like less than $1 a piece. So you save a lot of money also in magazines, because every rifle, in my opinion, should have at least 20 or 30 magazines, because magazine can be lost, can be a ban, and then what do? You have just a single shot.
Those are semi-auto.
Semi-auto.
And how many rounds does the clip hold? Like 5?
Okay. First of all, the M14 has a magazine. It's not a clip, it's a magazine, and it has 20 rounds. Instead, with the M1 Garand, it's a clip. The distinction that is not any type of spring. It's just a metal part that holds 8 rounds. It's 8 rounds. Don't get me wrong. I understand the advantage to have 20 rounds magazine that you can easily, attach and remove. But at the same time, 8 rounds in M1 Garand, if you train, you can be very fast to just load it up. Yeah. It's very easy to load it up. And of course, that's still $900. Many people say, gee, it's great. But first of all, of course, you do what you can. But sometimes we do we waste money in many other things. Sometimes we go to Starbucks. Every time we go to Starbucks or any type of place like that, it's $5 for nothing. At the end of the month, $150. If you put a little bit of a card in 10 months period, here we go, $1,500. It's choices. It's about priorities. I understand that. We cannot have it all. I mean, myself, I can say, okay, I buy a gun and then I go to Hawaii. No, I make a choice, I stay in Arizona and I buy my guns. Anyway.
Yeah, you're probably better off staying in Arizona.
I already went to Hawaii when I was young, and that's enough. So anyway, that's the second choice, M1 Garand in 308. And why not in 3006? The only reason why is if you have 10,000 rounds of 3006 you already bought, that's great. But right now, it's kind of surplus, very hard to get ammunition. 308 or 7.62 by 51 is still, of course, expensive, especially the last few years, but it's still more common to find. And it's still something still used by military. It's the NATO version. So that would be number one rifle. Number two, people can say we want to go into the world of the carbine. Let's say 5.56, like AR-15, the civilian version of the AR-15. It could be the M16. I say great. I mean, at the end of the day, whatever you can be comfortable. But if I had to pick one rifle only, remember, a 308 or 7.62 by 51, he has enough power, first of all, to outreach most of the 5.56. Because if I shoot a 308, I can go through a hard surface, let's say even a car, at even 600, 700 yards. Okay, instead, you have different type of grains. I mean, for example, 308, we're talking about at least 157 grain. I mean, under 68 grains, depends on the type of... Anyway, it's double at least what the 62 grain that you have from the average, or 55 grains that you have with the average 5.56. The 5.56 was mostly for the purpose of from 0 to 200 yards on flash. Every time you put the barriers between, even for hunting, let's say you're in a survival situation, you need to take a big game. It's almost inhumane because it's still a very light round.
Right.
It's going to create for sure a very damaging wound. You may be dead the next 10 minutes. But unfortunately, in that 10 minutes, it's going to suffer. And more important, if you have an enemy, the other enemy in 10 minutes can kill you a few times.
Right.
So I say always, if you can go get anything that would be in the 308 as a standard caliber. But if you have now many other options, the prices went very lower. By the way, you can get an AR-15 for like $700, and a good one too. So great, if that's your rifle, you want to do it. If I had to say for the working man as the first semi-auto weapon, it is not exactly what you call the apotheosis of marksmanship, because for me the rifleman is defined for the man or woman that can pretty much shoot 4 minutes of angles. That means you can get your quarter-mile radius from 500 yards with iron sight. If you train as a rifleman, you can keep your group within 20 square inches.
Wow.
That's the idea. It's 20. It's the size of your body.
And that's pretty accurate.
Yes, I mean that's no snipers. I'm just talking about rifleman marksmanship. 4 minutes of angle. That means there are trainings that you can at 25 yards do the shooting in 1 square inch. Okay, that's what we do. That's what I do normally to qualify. So with the type of power, 500 yards, with the type of cartridge, 308, you can perform. 5.56, yes, you can still do it, but there's much more difficulties because, first of all, you have less penetration, less power, and more important, even the wind. I mean, we have a very lighter cartridge, the 5.56 at 500 yards. It's going to be just much more difficult even to control the windage. But let's say, working men, if everybody had a pattern rifle, because it's not really the AK-47, but a rifle called AK-47 pattern rifle, because the real AK-47 is the one that normally you get in Russia, that they are selective fire. You go and fire full auto. We don't have that. I mean, you could have it, but it would be a lot of extra money. You don't need it. You can get, though, for like $500, incredible quality of AK-47 semi-auto version with a cartridge is 7.62 by 39. That is an intermediate cartridge between 5.56 and the 308. So normally we're talking about 120 grains. Okay, the rifle itself, AK-47, it's very reliable, as you can imagine. The price is still very affordable, and it's a real rifle. And even, of course, you don't have the 500, 600 yards penetration that you could reach that you could have with normally with the M14, with a full-size cartridge like a 308. Still, you got much more power than a 5.56. And from 0 to 300 yards, it's a great rifle. And it's easy to learn. I mean, seriously. You ever shot an AK-47?
I have not.
You need to come with me to the range now. I hope, seriously, the gentleman from the range here, we can go together so I can bring some of my rifles and we can shoot them there. And I will bring one AK-47. I will bring the M14. I will bring also the M1 Garand chamber in 308. And now let's go to the working man rifle, the one that say you're really on a budget, you're strapped. I give you a rifle that's going to cost you one Saturday night out.
Which one is that?
Mosin Nagant. You ever heard about that?
I've heard that before.
Okay, it's a bolt action, but still you have a cartridge in a center fire round, 7.62 by 54 Russian. Don't go away. And it's a great powerful cartridge, pretty much comparable to the 308, okay, or 306. We're talking about, you can get, by the way, these are real historical weapons. We're talking about 1930, 1940. I mean, they went there, they did the war, they refurbished.
Is this an X-bolt or an A-bolt?
Just, what do you mean X-bolt?
Well, I've just heard of X-bolts and A-bolts. I was just going to ask you what...
Okay, there is the receiver, you can get hexagonal or just regular plain. But the point is, it is a bolt action. You can buy for less, 5 rounds. You can load it up from the top with the clips, and it's like $130.
Wow.
Okay, and that one in the skillful hands, you have the opportunity to perform as a rifleman. Of course, you need to be zeroing the rifle, and you have for less than $150 a real military rifle that, if you know how to use it, look, Afghanistan, when they were repelling the Russian invasions, that was the main weapons. And they were able to, even disorganize, but in a guerrilla warfare, to stand against the almighty Russians. So that's something we should talk about next time.
Let's do it.
Michael, any other thing you want to say before we close? We have 40 seconds.
No, just once again, if you like to shoot, check out Tri-State Shooting Park. Talk to Robbie Love. Tell him that Luca and Mike sent you.
Okay, now last thing I would like to say. A gun without ammo is like an expensive paper holder. When people ask me how much ammo should I buy, my answer is much as you can afford after you pay your basic bills. Then as much as your floor can handle the weight. I like